Well, the new Sony cameras are announced. So let's get to discussing. Sony announced a new Sony A7C Mark II and the R with their new announcement. Now, I had made a video regarding the Sony A7C Mark II and what I kind of wanted when it came down to the camera, or what I expected when it came down to the camera. So I wanted to run down a little bit of the things that I've learned today while watching some of the videos of the creators that get the nice access of the camera early on, because, well, Sony, I'm still waiting. I use Sony, but it's all good. But eventually, we'll be there. But I wanted to give you a little bit of my thoughts about the, a little bit of the performance, the specs out compared to the A7 IV, as well as some of the overheating things that I've been seeing, to see if it was the right choice for Sony with their new cameras. The Sony A7C Mark II is going to be basically a baby A7 IV. It comes in at $2,200 for just the body versus, I think is what, $2,500 for just the body of the A7 IV. So you should, I guess, saving a couple bucks here and there when it comes down to that camera, but you are going to be losing a little bit of, pro-like specs when it comes down to that camera. You don't have the dual SD card slots, and you're also, you're not having a nice viewfinder up here. You're having it from the side. But you do get a little bit more of the smaller compact body, but it comes at a price. Seeing a little bit of videos, I saw the Who is Matt Johnson's video talking about the overheating when it came down to the Sony A7C Mark II and the R. And well, as expected, it is a, compact body, so the overheating issue is not going to be, too much of a non-issue, I guess, for lack of a way of putting it in different wording. He did a test where he was outside in Texas, which that's where I reside, currently not Texas, but, in Texas, the heat has been in the triple digits in Fahrenheit or in the mid 40s when it comes down to the heat in Celsius and the heat index, and it's been rather hot. So he did his testing where he tried to use the 4K 60 on both the cameras, and they lasted about like 16 minutes for the A7CR, and the A7C II was about 18-ish minutes. Then he did it again at 4K, 24 frames per second, and it wasn't that much better according to him. It was 18 minutes for the R, and for the 2 was about 20-ish minutes. Now, taking it indoor with a 72 degrees Fahrenheit that he said that he had indoors, it lasted a lot longer substantially, and, you kind of would hope so with that when it comes down to a camera. You don't want to have a camera that's not going to, at least survive indoors, and that's something that I understand when it comes down to that camera. For me personally, I would use it more for the outdoors. So having those tests happen where like the outdoors is not so great kind of makes me doubt if it's going to be the right camera for myself. I have a Sony A7 IV, and this was supposed to be an overheating camera, and I haven't had it overheat on me the whole summer. I've used it outside, taking photos, videos, and everything, as well as my Sony A7S III. So it makes me kind of beg the question, is the A7C Mark II the right camera for me? The reason I'm not talking so much about the Sony A7CR is because the price point of that one is $3,000, and as much as you want for a compact camera with 61 megapixels, that's just ridiculously pricing, even for me in that standard. I know it's a A7, R5 baby or whatever you want to go with it, but it just sounds a little bit crazy with the price point for what you're getting in a compact body, which sounds great, but also not really. I mean, for me, I prefer doing the Sony A7C Mark II, if anything, out of the both, just because the price point makes more sense. You have a compact camera with good video and photo, not just one more catered to the photo, because the R series are always more photo-centered. Well, getting down to it, is it the right camera for me? Yes and no. I do want to have a smaller version of my cameras, especially for full frame when it comes down to traveling, to be able to do my videos, photos, anything that I want to in a smaller setup. I also don't want to have the, doubts that it could perform throughout the whole trip when I want to make more professional kind of videos whenever it comes down to these travels, because I use them for my YouTube videos and everything like that. So I don't want to have a camera that's going to either overheat or have one single card slot, because, the Sony A7C Mark II has that. And I made a video about talking about that, about why you should have a dual SD card slot camera, or a one if that's what you're going for, and why. For me, the dual card slot just makes more sense because I'd have a backup of everything, and especially if you're traveling, don't want anything to happen to my SD cards, whether it's a failure, an error, or something like that, that I would lose all my information of the creating that I'm doing. So the A7C Mark II, in theory, sounds phenomenal, but I'm still not 100% sold on it. I feel like most of these cameras that Sony's coming out with, and just in general, technology is just, they already have a much better technology setup, I think, but they're just pacing themselves so that they always have a product to sell to you. Because my Sony A7S Mark III is like a 3-year-old camera now, maybe 4, because I think it came out in 2020, 2019. I can't even remember right now. And this one came out in 2021. And they're still kind of having cameras that come out with the same specs. So am I going to be spending more money to get essentially the same camera in a different body? Probably not. Do I like the idea of a smaller compact body? Yes, I do. So for me personally, it's just hard to justify the expense to go into that camera. Maybe I'll have more convincing to do once I'm done, traveling the next couple of, kind of like 7 days or whatever it is that we're still going for. But every time that I'm out traveling, I still don't have an issue. I mean, I use my Sony A7 IV and the A7S III with the Tamron 20-40 or my 35-150. So I'm okay with that little bit of extra weight. So unless there's like a way to get something smaller with lenses as well, it's going to be hard to get that adjusted into my mind. So even with the Sony A7CR, it sounds great on paper, having 61 megapixel in one camera, all the video specs too and everything. But for $3,000, I mean, you're better off getting the ZV-E1 if you want some good video specs, or just a A7C Mark II. So I'm not really sure what the marketing behind and the push on the money for like how much it's going to be worth for each camera is going to be like, because I don't know who's going to be wanting to drop that kind of cash on compact bodies that aren't really pro line because they don't have the dual card slots and things like that. But I mean, they do have good specs. So that kind of brings down to one question. Are you planning to get one of those cameras? Yes or no, and why? That would be interesting to know your thought process. Maybe it'll convince me to actually consider getting one of them. I know eventually I want to try to at least rent out the Sony A7C Mark II to see how well it'll perform in the heat of Texas, to see if it can handle that when I'm out and about just creating like shorter bursts of videos instead of like long form style, like how they did in the testing for the overheating, if it would make sense for me. But for now, it's seeming like I should probably still wait. And I love the idea of having a more compact video, but still not there with the overheating, because obviously the higher specs of video and everything in a smaller body is just going to overheat. So unless they figure out a way to make the heat disappear and, dissipate from the body as fast as possible so that you don't overheat as fast, it'll be interesting to see what happens when it comes out to that. But for now, still sticking with my Sony A7 IV and my A7S III until something better comes along and really just calls my name like how these two cameras did. But with all that said and done, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, share this video with a friend. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.